That is truly amazing to be able to see, even though I'm not in the same room with you, just to be able to see the actual figurines and have you present them is really, oh my God, no, look at, oh, I've never been that close to Wallace before.
It's out of focus, but you get the idea.
But you get the idea.
Well, I'm up very early today, which means I must be with somebody or some people very special. It's very early in the morning, but I would get up any day at any time to talk to legends like this. This is at least one of these people you've heard of regularly in this studio. You definitely have, and they have been the inspiration for many artists and animators out there, and have entertained many others. And I am joined here today by nickpark and also Merlin Crossingham, who are the directors of the most recent Aardman production, Vengeance Most Fowl. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, very welcome. Great to be here.
Yeah, nice to be here, Korey.
You know, first of all, I know this is a press junket, so forgive me if I ask any questions that's already been asked. All of these are truly out of genuine curiosity because I'm a huge fan of Aardman animation, as many people are.
Yeah, great.
I was very happy to see the return of Feathers McGraw. The Ron Trousers is that's absolutely one of my favorite shorts ever. I remember seeing it at an animation festival years ago, so I was very pleased to see that the character was returning. What prompted the decision to bring back Feathers McGraw after all these years? And also, you know, the first time we saw Feathers McGraw, it was a short. Now it's a feature length. What was the decision to make it a feature length film?
Yeah, well, Korey, it wasn't really the initial idea. It was an idea that kind of developed over time, and the initial idea was to make a 30-minute movie where Wallace invents a robot gnome to help Gromit out, as you do, to help Gromit out in the garden doing his garden chores. But it was kind of never really had that sinister thing that Wallace and Gromit films have, a motivated villain, and it was actually, we got distracted on doing other things and then came back to the idea years later and started tinkering around with it. And then suddenly there was like feathers on the shelf, like the perfect answer to this problem. You know, there we have a villain who has a personal history and reason to hate Wallace and Gromit with a personal vendetta.
Yeah.
And that suddenly upped the ante a lot, and we then decided to make it into a full-length feature film.
It grew from there.
Yeah.
Because Feathers, you couldn't contain him within a half hour.
Yeah.
So it was kind of unintentional, a very natural evolution.
Yeah.
And what was the initial idea or inspiration for the character himself, Feathers McGraw? Again, like I said, it's one of the, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this is one of my favorite villains of all time too. I find the character very not only very funny, but I also think Feathers is threatening, man. He kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Well, I mean, back in the days of Wrong Trousers, 1993, when it came out, I guess all these ideas, start as doodles and kind of quite small, really, and then develop. And as we made them the model, and started testing and realized how powerful he was for his lack of expression and how minimal he was, really, and simple. And big shout out to Steve Box, who was the main animator on Feathers McGraw back then. And we just suddenly saw his potential, and then we're really surprised as people reacting like you have, Korey, just how affected people were by such a simple thing.
When you say it's the lack of expression of the character, that's the thing that's the most frightening and the most hilarious. For a lot of people who don't know Feathers McGraw is a penguin who disguises himself as a chicken and commits crimes. And it's just for my audience out there, one of his trademark looks is down. You guys can tell me if I get this right, but like every now and then, that's the one that scares me.
That's it. And it's that simple and direct approach that he has that we've really tried to maintain in Vengeance Most Fowl. But we realised that was his superpower, really. The fact that when Nick created him, he ended up being so graphically simple. That means that whenever he moves, because he moves so little, you see it. And so it's very important that those actions are absolutely correct. And we try not to move him much at all. I mean, we'd even talk about blinks, wouldn't we? I mean, just a blink that lets you know he's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know he's thinking at the right time. But because of that, he's very cinematic, actually. We use the music, we use the camera, the lighting. You have to use them really very carefully to get maximum effect out of him. I think that's one of the reasons why he is so effective as a character, is because you have to use, as a filmmaker, you have to use every trick in the book to make him, to give him his power. And I always marvel, even having worked with him now for the last 4 or 5 years, the strength of presence he has up on the screen.
That really is amazing. With that character, less is more. And it's crazy how you say it's cinematic, even though that character hardly does anything. And I mean, the eyes aren't even that expressive. They're just two beads.
Yeah, they don't move. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, that's right, because even Gromit has eyebrows, and you
can move his pupils.
You can read what he's thinking by moving his brows and his pupils. Yeah, like feathers, like you say. But we want to, as Merlin says, it takes a lot of kind of effort and focus to keep him mysterious. Because that's his power.
And on the eyes, something that our director of photography was very careful to keep in all of the shots with feathers was a little glint, a little sparkle in his eyes. So even if it sort of wasn't supposed to be there for a technical lighting reason, where if feathers turned his head, Dave Alex Redette would always make sure that there was a sparkle in his eyes, because that sparkle gives him depth and it makes you think there's thoughts inside going on, behind those dark eyes.
I like the way you say thoughts and he's thinking. I like to use the word plotting most of the time.
You're plotting, scheming.
Yes, the cogs are turning. A lot of it, when you keep him mysterious, I think what actually happens is the audience actually do the work, and they're filling in what they think he's thinking.
Is that Feathers' jail cell behind you?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
With Feathers is actually lying on the bed here.
Oh!
And this is...
Yeah.
So he's lying down, so you can't really see him probably. But he's right there.
Yeah, well, don't wake him up, man. I don't want him to get up and have any... I don't want to do any kind of crimes, anything violent.
But this is actually a set from the film, so this is the actual scale that we work at. And this is actual Gromit and actual Wallace.
Yes.
So if you weren't sure about how big the characters were, this is it.
Yeah.
That is truly amazing to be able to see, even though I'm not in the same room with you, just to be able to see the actual figurines and have you present them is really, oh my God, I've never been that close to Wallace before.
It's out of focus, but you get the idea.
But you get the idea.
And that's
real throughout the film.
No, that's incredible to see, because when you have stop motion, or in this case, more specifically, claymation, a lot of people don't understand the scale, or they're always trying to guess the scale of the models that you're working with. And that's, again, that's very incredible to see right there. I could probably guess at some things that might have been an influence on this film here, but what were the influences coming from you? What were the influences for Vengeance Most Fowl?
We certainly continued that vibe on from Wrong Trousers, and we looked at Rebecca, Hitchcock's Rebecca, and specifically Mrs. Danvers, and the way that she comes and goes from the shadows, and the way that the light is used as a framing device, not just as a way of illuminating a room, but compositionally as well. So and the whole film noir genre was very important to us on Vengeance Most Fowl. What else was there?
There was a scene that where you have Feathers McGraw, because the influencer I saw here.
Fear.
Cape Fear, where he's in there doing the pull-ups,
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say it might have been some sci-fi influence on that? The reason why I asked that is because there's a scene where Wallace is following all the gnomes throughout the street, and he has them on radar. And the little dots remind me of aliens in a way.
That's right. Yeah, good spot.
Definitely, yeah. And also, older than that, the when the gnomes are in the van or in the basement and they all turn at the same time, that was Village of the Damned.
It's funny how you mentioned Village of the Damned because this one does have a more sinister feeling to it. You know, the last one was, like we said, was a crime caper, a crime film. This one has elements of horror. Those gnomes are terrifying. You know, especially when you talk about there's many of them and the way they stare at
Yeah.
people. Um,
Yeah.
so
We think we may have invented a subgenre, Corey, a new thriller subgenre known as gnome noir. I think we've got copyright on that now.
Well, you know what? I'm sitting up here looking at you, but you know what? It's very effective. If you want to do a horror spin-off with those gnomes, I would be all in for it.